Hello, welcome to the recorded games for the Legacy Sunday Challenge 64 on January 28th. And this is the deck tech for Magic Fingers 2.4, the Thought Lash combo deck. I've always fluctuated between Chalice of the Void or Preordain, and here we're on Preordains. You have Step Through to help tutor for your package, which the goal of this deck is to win with Thassa's Oracle. So it's a Thassa's Oracle combo deck. You want to have no library, and we're mono blue, so we don't have Doomsday to do it. Instead, we use Paradigm Shift, which exiles all cards from your library, shuffle your graveyard into your library, or you have Thought Lash, which can exile as many cards as you choose. Last ability, exile the top card of your library, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you, which is used. We use Thought Lash to stall out aggro games as well as to combo. Our mana base to help get, this is a 4 mana enchantment or a 4 mana combo with Paradigm Shift, Thassa's Oracle. We have Ancient Tombs and Lotus Petals to power it out quickly. Cavern of Souls to have the Thassa's Oracle be uncounterable. Cavern of Souls is particularly good in this 75, along with the Step Through, because every single creature in this 75 is a wizard. So you can find any of the creatures in this 75 with Step Through. You have our wizard package of course, Thassa's Oracle to win with. Malevolent Hermit helps against control a lot. Spellseeker is primarily to find Paradigm Shift, but can also be used to find Preordained, Daze, or Impulse. And then out of the sideboard, we've got Magus of the Moon, which you'll see a few times during this league, Magus of the Moon solos games. And then Phyrexian Censor never comes in. Spoilers never comes in during the tournament here, but this has been an absolute house against a lot of different Storm decks, as well as the Mississippi River deck. 2 Otawaras, and then I split Islands and Snow-Covered Islands, partially from a long time ago when I played D&T, and you'd split your basics against Predict, and then also in paper I have a set of signed Anson Maddox Snow-Covered Islands that I just really like, and so I still play with them. And I have Anson Maddox non-Snow-Covered Islands, just regular islands that I really like, and so I like to play with both. The One Ring is here to help. It helps a lot against control mostly. It helps you keep up with the beans, with those beanstalk decks. And then aside from that, Daze, Force of Will, and cantrips to find and protect the combo. In the sideboard, Force of Negation as a 3-of for the opposing combo decks. Our wizards in the sideboard, we already talked about Phyrexian Crusader and Magus of the Moon. Tishana's Tidebinder for Doomsday, the Mirror, and anywhere else that you would want to stifle something. Which, when we have Cavern of Souls, you can stifle it uncounterably. I also bring this in against Storm to counter the Storm trigger. Flusterstorm for tempo and Storm matchups. Surgical and Grafdigger's Cage as our graveyard hate. 3 defense grids to help against tempo and control. Just 1 Null Rod for all of those One Ring decks that are going around against us. They're going to be the better One Ring deck, so I'm going to bring Null Rod in and probably take our One Ring out. Propaganda, I've been trying out ever since Goblins became more and more popular. Undecided on the effectiveness of Propaganda. And then just 1 Echoing Truth to find with your Spellseeker if you need it. And that's the deck. So I will see you in the tournament. So these are the recorded rounds from the Legacy 64 challenge from January 28th. This is round one. I have no idea what my opponent's on here. So mulliganed quick, and just kept a bunch of impulses to try and dig for the combo. And it looks like we're up against Scam. And so going through these recordings, just going to be looking for what are punts, what were some misplays, and what could have been done better. So, probably could have waited on that impulse. A 1/1 Delver is not too much of a threat, and playing into Daze when we know Scam is going to have Daves is not exactly what we want to do. And then there I went for the force on the Reanimate to try and keep the clock manageable. I wanted the paradigm shift off of that first impulse, but needed stability. I'm not entirely sure where my head was at. Playing out that Ancient Tomb was just wrong. Purely a punt because of playing around Wasteland, and then we could have cast this Thought Lash and then possibly stabilized. So that's definitely a punt. And then we don't know if they had the force or not, but we had to wait to be able to play it, and then we were playing into Daze. They also had force of will, and we just couldn't stabilize from there. But our best shot was definitely on turn 4 when we played that Ancient Tomb and didn't need to, and played into Daze. And so now let's go look at game 2. So game 2, we know it's Scam, and this opening hand looks pretty reasonable. I like having Defense Grid, I like having Cavern Souls, but we do need to find both parts of the combo. But against Scam, I don't want to mulligan as much as possible, so I go ahead and keep. And then I don't always play out the Lotus Petals, but against Scam or another discard deck, I'm definitely going to play them out every time. They grief us, take our shift, take our defense grid, and then we find the Thought Lash there. I just felt under pressure and played into Daze. And then this Grafdigger's Cage is just way too late. And then, yeah, I played the step through there, and I shouldn't have, because if we drew Ancient Tomb, we could have at least had the out to try to use it as a bounce spell if they played another creature. But end of the day, ultimately, they scammed us off of our protection, and then I played into Daze with the Thought Lash, but you know, we didn't have another land coming for a minute, and they had Wasteland to keep us playing into Daze the whole time. And pull up round 2. So we won the die roll, we're on the play. And this hand I like. It's got relatively stable mana, and then the A part of the combo, just need to find the B. And it has multiple copies of it. So if we do end up paired against Scam again, that's fine. Again, I don't know what my opponent's on here, so we'll just see what happens. So it looks like Reanimator pitching the Animate Dead, and they do take the Thought Lash, which not all Reanimator players will respect the Thought Lash, thinking it's too slow, but in this case it would be our way to buy time, and they take it. Okay, I don't know why it skipped out there. I know I give it a few turns here to try and top deck it out. I bounce the Grizzlebrand into their hand. I mostly stuck around just because knowing that we had that Otawara in order to make that play to bounce it. And their Grief misses, but they have to reanimate to bring back Grizzlebrand, and use Spellseeker to find Preordain to try and set something up, but don't find anything. Yeah, Scryed both to the bottom, and then just kind of flood out from here and go ahead and concede after this draw when we don't draw Thought Lash. Yeah. Sorry, I just realized that I don't have the game on the screen. Sorry about that. There we go. So again, we mulliganed to 6 and then kept Force of Will Surgical with a Paradigm Shift. Just need to find Thassa's Oracle. They open, and I force the Grief, because if they go to scam it with the Reanimate, I have the Surgical here for that. Okay. Sorry, I don't spend a lot of time in League recordings, so navigating this a little bit. And again, we're just looking for that Thassa's Oracle. I do remember this being a pretty long match, just in terms of actual time it took to play for me. Let's see if we can speed things up a little bit here. There was a lot of them waiting to probably go off with protection, and me not having the Thassa's Oracle. So I get the Thought Lash into hand, and because they're a discard deck, as soon as I get that 4th mana, I will Windmill Slam that Thought Lash into play so fast. And that's exactly what happens. Bowmasters is fine. That's not something that this deck really cares about very much, given that the only cards that really draw for us are the Preordains and Lorien Revealed. We will use as a cantrip sometimes, but it's not very common. They go for the Exhume. We end up using the Surgical Extraction to take out Grizzlebrand. It looks like they're only on 2 Grizzlebrands, but they also are running Opposition Agents and Bowmasters. But again, because they are the Grief Unmasked deck, Grief, Unmask, and Thoughtseize, just playing things out as soon as we have them, and that turned out to be the case. So we played out the Thoughtseize, or the Thought Lash, and then they did bring back a Grief. Again, just trying to draw as much as I can. And then whenever I have a Thought Lash out, I'll usually play with my Exile pulled out as well, so that I can keep track of what's left in my deck. And we have life here, but I don't know if they're going to have removal for the Thought Lash, so I want to use my use it to protect our life total. You could argue, with Force of Negation as protection, maybe we don't need to protect our life total, but Wear Tear is an instant. Force of Negation wouldn't stop that, so if they had Wear Tear here and we just took 8 for no reason, then we'd be dead on the next turn. So we're playing around common removal that Reanimator has, and Thought Lash isn't a guarantee in games 2 and 3 against Reanimator because they do usually come prepared for Leyline of the Void, and Thought Lash loses to the same things. Let's see. Oh, that preordain earlier. The other reason that I missed remembering this. The other reason that we were able to be so liberal with activating Thought Lash was that we put a Thassa's Oracle on the bottom with the preordain earlier, so we knew that it was there. So I will go ahead and pull up Game 3. All right, Game 3 on the draw. So far, I don't think that anything was necessarily what I would call a punt. We did mulligan again here, and this time, once again, I went ahead and protected our surgical extraction with the Force of Will. Unfortunately, this time they had the Thoughtseize to back it up, and so I throw out the surgical, take all the griefs out of their deck, and then take another look to see if anything had changed. And they burn off the last of that mana with from that Dark Ritual, getting Orcish Bowmasters into play. They're on a no-land start, though. They were really banking on having that double grief, it looks like. Alright, come on, Moto. So they're on no lands, we're on no spells, and just whoever tops out of it first wins. I accidentally F6 through my turn, missing that land drop, and so that's a punt that you'll never have in paper. So, found the Oracle. Don't have to worry about griefs anymore. Do need to worry about unmasks and Thoughtseizes. They found their land drop. So expecting them to start Faithless Looting, and they do. They unmask us. We impulse in response, and they had their choice between Thought Lash or Thassa's Oracle. They went with the Thought Lash, which they're just trying to get this game done. And here we don't draw a combo piece. So you have to think about, okay, do we hold on to this Thassa's Oracle, waiting for the A to our AB combo? I decided I'm going to play it. It's a great blocker against Orcish Bowmasters. We're at 10, and this should functionally buy us a lot of time, which is what ends up happening. I said a couple of times that this ends up being a very long round. Opponent does nothing against our wall of Athas's Oracle. And holding up days against their one Badlands is great. I don't cycle this Lorien Revealed. Even though they have this Orcish Bowmasters, I was thinking that I might draw 3 with it if I could find a way to remove this. I decide to abandon that plan and just grab the island anyways, rationing that with the game going longer, my lines are going to require more mana. They attack in with just the army. I wonder if they have Orcish Bowmasters there. They ended up not having it, as we saw. But if they had a second Orcish Bowmasters, they could have pinged Oracle and pumped the army to kill the Oracle, which I would have been okay with, because then we're just facing down a 1/1. So now we have double shift, and we're just looking for another Oracle, or even like this Oracle to die, or bounce. So step through, Otawara, Oracle, or them killing our Oracle are all outs at this point to end the game. So we're drawing pretty live, and we draw a lot of mana, a lot of cantrips. End up cantripping into the Orcish Bowmasters again. We just have a lot of ways to finish this, and I'm really just looking for one of them. They reanimate one of their Bowmasters, and let's see. Just drew a land, and now we have Force of Will backing us up. They swing in hard. I block the Bowmasters because I can block the 2/2 all day. If they want to swing, they can push for 1 damage at a time. That's still a 4-turn clock for us. I consider it a 3-turn clock because I do want to be able to use this Force of Will. And now we have tons of mana. We have enough mana to cast Shift, and Oracle, so anything that finds us Oracle here wins us this game. They reanimate, going for the Bowmasters. I don't want this to get to 3/3 status, because then they can just push, and our clock goes from 4 turns down to just 1 turn. So we have the Flusterstorm here, and let's see. The game should be nearing its end. That's Ancient Tomb's not going to do anything for us. And holding on to it plays around them getting Archon of Cruelty out of nowhere to help with that. We do have this Flusterstorm, so that's unlikely, but if you can pad your hand against Reanimator, it is good. They end up not going anywhere. Preordained finds an Otawara, and they get the 3/3. So we were looking for step through or Otawara, really, so that we could block and get the game done with. And that ends up being what happening. We block the Orc token with the Thassa's Oracle, counter this Faithless Looting so that nothing goes weird, block and bounce in response so that we have it in our hand. They reanimate Orcish Bowmasters, that's fine, we can go to 1, and we end up casting Paradigm Shift to clear the library, and then Paradigm Shift again. Because our graveyard's too big, we have to shift twice. And then we have Caverns to cast the Oracle and take down Red-Black Reanimator. So here's round 3, and very solid hand, great mana underneath us. We have half the combo, and Step Through is a line to the combo through Spellseeker into Paradigm Shift, but we end up finding Thought Lash anyways. Looks like our opponent is either on Cradle, Elves, or Post. The Yavimaya, though, that they revealed off of Once Upon a Time makes me really think that it's 12 Post. Which the only thing I'm scared of out of 12 Post is Pithing Needle, because they play a full playset to cover Wastelands. I don't want them to Pithing Needle the Thought Lash. I Wizard Cycle for a backup Thassa's Oracle just in case we end up needing one, and then cast the Thassa's Oracle and Thought Lash until there are 4 cards left, leaving enough that if we have to go again next turn, we have the second Thassa's Oracle. So, as you can see, that's only 1 minute 3 seconds of time off the play clock, and then we go into so we know it's 12 Post, and I know we're like looking for punts. I don't know that playing the Thought Lash earlier in the game 1 was a punt. Playing into the Pithing Needle, we had plenty of time. It was just one of those things that was the only risk to that line. Here they have turn 1 Pithing Needle, and they did name the Thought Lash, which is fine. Again, we have a indirect line to the combo with Step Through for Spellseeker for Paradigm Shift. And then against Post, we bring in Magus of the Moon, because Cavern of Souls and Lotus Petal can both cast it. But we're just going to go for the combo. And it's all backed up by Force of Will. And we have this Thought Lash that they Pithing Needled to pitch to our Force of Will. Just a real nice 1, 2, 3 here of turn 1, play a land pass, turn 2, Wizard Cycle, turn 3, Spellseeker, turn 4 combo. The only thing to be afraid of here would be Endurance, but we have Force of Will. And they didn't have Endurance. Okay, this is round 4, game 1, because I messed up the recording before, and so sorry if any audio is weird or different here. Round 4, game 1 against Magic Dads. One thing I talked about was how Magic Online, you have the internet as a tool. If you were in person at a tournament, you could walk around and see what people are playing, so, you know, never feel bad for Googling somebody. And I got combo vibes from this person. Normally I wouldn't keep this hand that's Ancient Tomb, needs to use this Lorien to go find my island, but I have 3 counter spells here, and that against combo is something that I would keep. Step Through to go find either an Oracle or a Spellseeker, whichever half of the combo I'm needing. The thing that I don't do here that I probably should is use Misdirect to redirect this Thoughtseize onto our opponent. You can use Misdirect pitching Force of Will or pitching this Malevolent Hermit. And instead, I kind of just click through this, being like, well, I'm not going to Force of Will a Thoughtseize. But it didn't even register in my head that this Misdirect was Misdirect and not some other card. I end up drawing the island, but I still want to be able to cycle either Step Through or Lorien Revealed. I decide to cycle the Lorien Revealed here and go grab another island. They Entomb in response, and always counter the Entomb if you can, because it's like countering all of the Reanimates. They unmask themselves and get Grizzlebrand in, and here's where things go off the rails. So if we had misdirected earlier, then we might still have both of our Force of Wills and might have been able to fight that. But we ended up shields down, and all we could have done, all we were set up here for was to Step Through for Spellseeker, for Paradigm Shift, and have this multi-turn line to try and win. We do still have the out of either a Lotus Petal to use the Step Through to bounce creatures, which is ironic because we drew the Lotus Petal but we cycled the Step Through. But if we hadn't cycled Step Through, who knows if we would have still drawn Lotus Petal. What I was playing towards was to win, not to not lose. So to play to not lose, we would keep the Step Through, try and draw Lotus Petal, bounce 2 creatures. To play to win, cycle the step through, grab another Oracle, and hope to draw Thought Lash. So. Alright. So game 2, against Reanimator, I bring in 3 Force Negations, Grafdigger's Cage, Surgical Extraction, and then kind of decide what I want out. Sometimes I'll usually keep Days In on the play and cut it on the draw. Misdirects go out, even though, like I was just talking about, they're good against Thoughtseize and Unmasked, they're bad against everything else. And then Spellseeker, we don't really have time for. Malevolent Hermit, we don't have time for. The One Ring, we don't have time for. So it's just counter spells and combo, and that's the plan for games 2 and 3. So we mulligan to 5, looking for interaction with decent mana, and end up finding just Flusterstorm. Have a chance, okay, do we preordain looking for something like Force of Will? No, we're just going to hold up Flusterstorm. It doesn't beat Grief, but you can't beat everything. So, come on, Moto. So Reanimator also plays Scared in games 2 and 3. That's what we see happening here is they kept 7 and they go land pass into our open mana. We mulliganed aggressively looking for interaction, and they are respecting it. They fetch there, makes me think that they have Entomb, but then maybe they thought better of it. The Unmask here, I make them pay for. I know that they can, but, you know, just make them burn their mana where you can. And then Impulse grabs Preordain. Remember that Thassa's Oracle where it is. And here it looks like, okay, looks like they maybe weren't playing too Scared, but that they shifted onto this mid-range plan of multiple Voidwalkers, and Reanimator will do that. They'll shift onto the mid-range plan of Voidwalkers, Shieldred, Opposition Agents, and such. And we know that there's a Thassa's Oracle on the bottom. So I take the Thought Lash here, and one thing, I drew the Thassa's Oracle, but one thing that you don't see anywhere in the stream, because I keep a notepad as I'm playing, and it tells me, like, I keep track of how far from the bottom my Thassa's Oracles are, because that's really, like, Preordain and Impulse, I think, are stronger in this deck than any other deck, because you get the card in your hand, and then if you have Thought Lash, knowing the bottom of your deck is just as good as having it in your hand. And then here I thought for a while about Force Negationing the Dark Ritual, because Dark Ritual could have turned into a creature, but I risked it. If it was going to be a creature, it's not beating my Thought Lash, and if it was a reanimation spell, I wanted to make sure they didn't get Grizzlebrand. And using Thassa's Oracle to pitch to the Force Negation was fine, because again, we know exactly where Thassa's Oracle is on the bottom. And then we can just let the cumulative upkeep trigger from Thassa's Oracle resolve, pause in our upkeep, before our draw step, exile until we get to where the Thassa's Oracle is. Here it's number 5. And then go to our draw step, draw it, play it, and exile the rest. So even if Thassa's Oracle is like 13 from the bottom, as long as you've been keeping track all game, that's just as good as having it in your hand. Sometimes it's better because they can't Thoughtseize it. And then we'll draw the Thassa's Oracle and play it. And then here my opponent does rage against me in the chat a little bit, saying lucky, bullshit, all that kind of stuff. And I tell him, like, and Impulse and Preordain puts it on the bottom in any order. Like, this wasn't luck, this was sculpted. And they weren't having it. They were just like, no, lucky BS. I'm like, okay, There's always luck in Magic, right? But this wasn't luck. Okay, so I had another recording issue in the same round. So this is round 4, game 3 still. Again, sorry if there's any audio discrepancies. So we're going to keep this hand because of Grafter's Cage and hope that they pass the turn. Keeping 7 against Reanimator, usually they'll play scared. They do. We get to stick our Grafter's Cage. We even drew the Surgical Extraction as nice backup. And from here, obviously, we are just looking for the other half of our combo, as well as hoping to not get Thoughtseized. One of the reasons to have kept that 7 was because they do have Grief, Unmasked Thoughtseize, like we've talked about a lot, and we don't want to mulligan to Oblivion looking for the perfects. They continue to not interact with us in any way, shape, or form. They play a Faithless Looting, ditching Entomb Reanimate, and pass the turn, and we could just go for it here with Paradigm Shift, Oracle. Use the Surgical here, not because I care about that Faithless Looting. I just wanted to check their hand and make sure that the coast was clear. And it was. So, Shift, Oracle, win the game. See you in the next round. So we ended up winning the whole round 4 anyways, but you know, we're trying to tighten up. So we keep 7 here with a cantrip heavy Force of Will hand. Again, I don't know what this opponent's on. I did a check, and I think that according to Goldfish, they play a lot of Maverick. But Maverick these days is always like a natural order deck. I'm always fine keeping these cantrip heavy hands with interaction. And so we do that here, and we find the Shift, and we're just looking for the Oracle. Preordain and Impulsing Thassa's Oracle to the bottom doesn't work with Paradigm Shift because it gets exiled, so that only works with Thought Lash. Impulse finds the Thassa's Oracle here, but there are 4 cards in our graveyard, but we have 2 Thassa's Oracles, and so far they haven't shown us any black or any other kind of discard, so the only thing that I'm really worried about game 1 against a green deck is either getting comboed out from like a natural order or some like Crater Hoof nonsense, or Endurance. And so I'm going to choose to play around Endurance. Questing Beast doesn't matter. We're going to use these Force of Wills very strictly on just, does it affect us? And they can have anything that doesn't kill us or beat us. So we go for the first combo. I really sniffed that they had Swords to Plowshares, and they ended up having it. But then they were tapped out, and so I went for it again because we had 3 Thassa's Oracles total. So the first one got plowed. The second one, nothing ended up happening, but if they had Endurance in their 3-card hand there and they pitched for it, I could have forced it. So I really felt protected, even though we still had 2 cards left in our library. Okay, this is round 5, game 2. So we keep this hand on 7. We've got Step Through, which can go find us a Spellseeker if we want to, but drawing this Magus of the Moon against this Mavericky deck, which usually has a nice greedy mana base, we are definitely switching to the Magus of the Moon plan. We'll still have Step Through to go find a Thassa's Oracle later on. We also have these Force of Wills to protect it. They don't have any basic lands, and so it's just their Collector Oof versus our Magus. There's no way we're going to let that Opposition Agent resolve. Just to pause real quick, because for 2 reasons. We know we need this Step Through to search our library with, so Opposition Agent, get out of here. And it's also a 3/2, which beats our Magus, and we don't have the combo, and we're not close to it, so we can't have them having a 3-power clock. We completely freeze out their mana, though, with the Magus of the Moon. I play out this Lotus Petal into Collector Oof, which is the only punt that I would call like a punt in this game. I played it out, and it could just be a card in my hand. It doesn't matter in my hand or on the battlefield. But I was going to play Spellseeker here and realized that I cannot. So, we continue to trade blows for 2. They are winning the race right now. But I will have a Spellseeker as soon as I'm ready for it. And I think at that point they would stop attacking. Instead we draw a bounce. And so at the end of their turn, we're going to bounce their Collector Oof so that we can use our Lotus Petal and play the Thought Lash. It is a little premature to play the Thought Lash here, but I want to get it in while they are still locked under the Magus of the Moon. I'm really just trying to accelerate as much as I can because a 6-turn clock is still plenty of time for them to find a forest and start going off. I grab a cantrip with the Spellseeker to continue setting up for the Thought Lash. At this point, though, their clock is getting low. Definitely play out the Grafdigger's Cage because of Green Sun Zenith. If they find a basic land and they've been holding a Green Sun Zenith, they have all this mana to do whatever they want, and that cage could be the difference between us winning or losing. Put Oracle on the bottom and take the island there. So now, if things go sideways, we will have the ability to just combo as backup. Plan A is to just win with the Hate Bear beatdown. They take their last draw step and concede. Round 6 loaded up. And here we're up against the Taterman. I have no idea what they play ever, and have never heard their name before. So I wasn't able to find anything on them. But I also don't remember looking. So we have half the combo and a Force of Will and an Impulse. They wasteland the Ancient Tomb. Always play out, if you have Cavern and Ancient Tomb, always play out Ancient Tomb and the Blind over the Cavern. Much more okay with Ancient Tomb getting wastelanded than Cavern of Souls because there's a lot more Force of Will out there that you'd rather fight with Cavern than Ancient Tomb. So I thought they were blue-black scam for a while, but then they go Bayou Beanstalk, and I'm like, okay, it's Sultai Beans. We can beat this. We just land a Lash, and then step for the Oracle. I think we impulsed an Oracle to the bottom earlier, and we have the Cavern in hand. We've only played one Impulse. Yeah, so they go for the Leyline Binding, and we had this Force of Will. We could have tried to fight over it, but if they fight back, then they draw off of Up the Beanstalk. Instead, they're tapped out, and we know where an Oracle is on the bottom of the library, so we're just going to let this Leyline Binding resolve, take out Thought Lash, and then draw our Thassa's Oracle, and make sure that we win with Cavern of Souls. These Sultai and these other Beanstalk decks, they have so many ways to interact that you can't play around everything. So them being tapped out and us having the Cavern of Souls really lets us make sure that we're playing around as much as we can, because they can't stifle us or anything if they're tapped, obviously. Okay. So we go down to having 2 cards in library, draw Thassa's Oracle, and win. Oh, I remember this match. There was Oracle and Oracle, so if somehow, with no mana up, this, and through Cavern of Souls, this failed, we had another shot at it. Game 2. Okay, so we kept 7. The thing I don't love about this hand is that I don't have at least 2 mana, but I really need Preordain to find me a land, and I really need Impulse to find me the next land, or the Oracle. I like having Force of Will, and I like having Defense Grid. I like having half the combo. I don't like having 1 mana against the Wasteland deck. So we draw the second land, which is great. I'm still going to keep this land that I find off of the Preordain, and now I'm feeling kind of set up. We haven't seen Daze yet, but I'm still going to play around it with this Lotus Petal, and I decide to not jam Defense Grid here, holding up Impulse instead. My reason that I don't jam this Defense Grid is that their mana was up, so if they're going to do something, they're going to do it anyways, like with this Bowmaster right here. But also, they have Leyline Binding, Prismatic Ending, Witherbloom Command, and just so many ways to get rid of this Defense Grid that if I jam it and don't have Force up, then it's just gone. So I'd rather try to save it and play it at the same time that I go for the combo. And here I Impulse in response to the Orcish Bowmasters. If I could find an extra Force, I think I would have pitched Force to Force, but I found Step Through, which is better because it finds the combo. And then here, they Wasteland us again, so I'm not going to have time to develop the mana for that Defense Grid at the same turn plan that I just talked about. So I do play it out, and they cast Force and Negation to get rid of it. I end up drawing Thassa's Oracle here. And so I go for the Paradigm Shift. It resolves. And 3 cards left in library. I Preordain into the Orcish Bowmasters to get rid of one of those cards, just to speed up my own clock. And I should have fought over the Defense Grid with my Force of Will, but I was thinking that I'd be saving it for the combo turn. One of the reasons I should have fought over it, though, is because after we shift, it'll end up back in the deck because Force of Will have resolved, and then I'd also have the Defense Grid, and then this Dress Down Veil of Summer wouldn't have been able to happen. And so I just cracked Fiery Islet to go out on my own terms there. So, yeah, if I had fought over the Defense Grid, or even if I had, then potentially it would have, been in my on the battlefield. I can't remember if they had Bayou up to Veil then, or they might not have even had Veil, but they had it all. They had Dress Down and they had Veil of Summer, and we only had the 1 Force. I wouldn't consider this a punt situation. I made a decision to save my Force of Will for combo rather than to use it to fight for my Defense Grid, and it didn't work out. Alright, so this is game 3 from round 6. Had a technical issue, so re-recording, so game 3, so I'm sorry if anything gets clipped. So I keep this hand because it has very stable mana and half the combo and a cantrip against a control deck, which we can take our time against and develop with the stable mana. We end up finding the Step Through, and then here play out the Lotus Petal because we develop a plan. Okay, we're going to use this 2 mana to Step Through, and then use Cavern of Souls to have Magus of the Moon against a very greedy mana base. What I'm hoping for here on their turn is that they spend all their mana so that they don't have any fetch lands up. That doesn't end up being the case, so I'm going to Wizard Cycle for the Magus of the Moon. You might be thinking, okay, why not just go get the Thassa's Oracle and win? Well, they have 7 cards in hand. It's early in the game. If I can lock their mana, then they won't develop, and that's fine. They have a very greedy mana base. They don't play any basic lands. They Dress Down here. I don't know if it's emergency cantrip time or if they think that Dress Down beats Magus, but even if it beat it on layers, it gains all of its abilities back as soon as Dress Down leaves the battlefield. And so from here, we just have Force Blue card to protect Magus the Moon, and I'm never going to let myself not have Force Blue card to protect this Magus. If they want to get rid of Magus, they're going to fight for it, which is why I don't use Force of Will to fight over my Thought Lash here. It's not because I don't want to pitch Thassa's Oracle. I'll pitch Thassa's Oracle all day. I don't want to not have Force of Will to protect Magus the Moon. If I end up comboing, that's gravy, but right now Magus of the Moon is going to solo this game, and that is what this is all about. This is a game of Protect the Queen. And here we just draw Thought Lash, Thought Lash, Thought Lash 3 turns in a row. If I were my opponent, I'd be very frustrated with myself, because that's some ridiculousness to just draw 3 Thought Lashes in a row. And we end up sticking one of them. And again, I'm not just going to throw out this Thassa's Oracle for nothing here, because Thassa's Oracle is an all-in combo. If we go for it, we're not going to have a deck left. Magus of the Moon is doing the job just fine. I've got 2 Thassa's Oracles now. I've got this defense grid. I'm only going to go for the combo if I think that I'm under some pressure. I play out this defense grid in order to start setting up to combo. They go to Force of Vigor the Thought Lash. I'm not ready to exile my library, so I fight over that Force of Vigor. Because if defense grid once defense grid comes in, I'd like to still have the Thought Lash to combo with. I play the Thassa's Oracle. They counter it. Okay. They're spending their resources fighting my combo, but Magus just wins coast to coast. So we kept 7, just stable mana, cantrips, and 1 interactive spell on the play. Obviously, you'd like a better interaction than Daze, but that'll do. And then we end up drawing the Force of Will anyways. So they have Mox Opal, and they go to play the Chrome Mox. I do Daze the Chrome Mox. I don't often Daze Mana Rocks, but dazing Chrome Mox here feels like also destroying Mox Opal. They end up having another Chrome Mox anyways, and so they get Metalcraft. They play a Sphere. I force the Sphere because I'm not ready for that. They have a follow-up Sphere, and then they Wasteland our Ancient Tomb. And so we're clearly up against Stax. And they are just developing their Stax pieces, but we have interacted on 2 different occasions. So they only have 1 Sphere of Resistance and no pressure. And so I decide, hey, with 2 Thassa's Oracles and all these Stax pieces coming out, I've got plenty of mana. Let's do a Paradigm Shift, even though the graveyard's pretty full. So because they're showing Wasteland and they have Stax pieces, I'm just going to save this Cavern of Souls until I absolutely need it. I can't handle a second Sphere effect, so we definitely Force of Will the Lodestone Golem here. Ingenious Smith, I'm not worried about unless it got crazy big, but I don't think it's going to get too big in too many turns. We spend this turn using Preordain to make the library smaller, leaving up 1 mana for Daze. And here they play another Lodestone Golem. We can beat this Lodestone Golem, and they can beat our Daze, so we don't counter it. We have the Cavern so that our Thassa's Oracle costs 4. They're Hellbent, and we play Thassa's Oracle with 1 card left in library to win. So game 2 against White Stax. Mulligan to 6. Keeping... Oh, Moto. Keeping Force of Negation here. And some kind of stable mana and a combo piece. Used Force of Negation. They went for a Sphere of Resistance. It went really fast. It skipped a lot. They went Petal, Chrome Mox, and Chalice on 0, which I held my priority on for a while. really the only thing we care about is Lotus Petal for this Chalice on 0. And, but if we drew Lotus Petal, it would have allowed for a much quicker combo because you could just shift right away. I decided that I didn't want to play for the world where I draw Lotus Petal because they have Stax effects. And so if we just play Paradigm Shift, Lotus Petal, Pass, and they play Sphere of Resistance, then we can't cast this Thassa's Oracle through that. So I counter the... I let this go because I don't care about Lotus Petal anymore, and they do play Sphere of Resistance, and we countered it. They followed up with Urza Saga, and they have one card left in hand. They look to be on a Saga hand. I cycle Lorien Revealed for the island, using Ancient Tomb because I'm going to Paradigm Shift. Reasoning for grabbing this island is because there's going to be enough cards left in my graveyard that if I need to develop both of these lands, then I have the time to do so. But if I only need to develop one of these lands, then I'm just going to play it and win the game. Here, their Urza Saga goes and gets them a Mox Opal. Then they cast Crucible, replay Urza Saga. I don't know what's in their list, but Mox Opal is probably not what I would have gotten. And I am concerned about Solitude or Source of Plowshares, so I pass the turn. I'm not worried about Trinisphere or Chalice of the Void because we have the Cavernous Souls. They end up having Chalice on 2. I play Cavernous Souls and win. The only card... So I decided to play around Swords to Plowshares there by passing the turn when I had one card left in library instead of going for it, and they had one card in hand. What I could have lost to is if they brought in a Torpor Orb, because we didn't draw this Force of Negation until the very end. That was their last card in our deck. But we end up winning, and then we cut into top 8. All right, top 8. We're up against Grim, and Grim is a very familiar name to me. So I do the Goldfish search, but then I also went back and looked at my matches, like my personal matches, for the last day or two, and I played against them yesterday, and they were on Mono Black Scam at the time, and their Goldfish says that they are grinding a ton of Mono Black Scam. So I put them on Mono Black Scam for this game. And we'll see how that works out. Alright, play. So I don't want to mulligan too much, but that opening hand didn't have stable, didn't have mana. So we mulligan to 6, and I put the One Ring on the bottom. This Stalactite Stalker out of Basic Swamp, for me, confirms they're on Mono Black Scam. And I just try to play patient here. Dark Ritual into Shieldred. I'm going to Impulse, and I take this Daze. I don't think I'm going to get much else to Daze in this game. I'm 100% not ready to deal with Shieldred because they are going... I'm not going to have mana under me. So I use my... I use my chance to cantrip while I can and try and develop. Graveyard's getting a little full. And so at this point, because of the pressure and the graveyard, I'm really playing for Thought Lash. And I can tell that they're tight on mana because they Dark Ritual in response to the Malevolent Hermit instead of letting Hermit resolve. They end up drawing swamps anyways. They snuff out the Hermit, which not a fan of, but now they're Hellbent. But they are attacking for 6. We find exactly what we're looking for, the Thought Lash. And we drop it immediately. Now, in my previous games against Grim, they played Feed the Swarm, which is mono black enchantment removal. And I don't know if they play it in game 1 or not, but we're under pressure, so we got to play out the Thought Lash. And then as long as we get to untap, we have Oracle right here to win with. And that is exactly what happens. what you see there is I have yield to all thought lashes turned on, and so I can't control click through it, and so I have to turn off auto yields and then hold control, and I can click through my thought lashes to get through the deck. Just moto things. Whereas in paper, obviously, you just grab the deck and turn it over, and you're like, I exile this many. All right, fast forward. So they're hellbent, and they're just trying to get a look at the deck here. And there's the deck that they see. So game 2 against Mono Black Scam against Grim in the top 8. Game 1 felt really tight. A little bit of luck there. I'm not gonna bluff. I mean, the cards are in your deck, so you draw them. But drawing Thought Lash right when we did, that's exactly when we needed it. They were hellbent, and we found it off the top. I mean, we did cantrip our way to get there, and we saw Paradigm Shift a few times in one of those cantrips. And knowing that because of the pressure they're under and the size of our graveyard, we had to pass on Paradigm Shift in order to grab Thought Lash, I think is one of the things that, like, somebody who's newer to the deck, they're just going to see, oh, there's part A of my combo, I have part B in my hand, let me just grab it. But in that point, Paradigm Shift wasn't an option, unless you had 2 of them, but we didn't have the mana for that, and they're a Thoughtseize deck. So here, again, they're a Scam deck. I don't want to mulligan too low. I've got stable mana, I've got this Thought Lash here, and we even drew the Ancient Tomb in order to play it on turn 2. Lots of pressure from them. And so I play the Thought Lash out here. And they go for Grief, and I go for forcing the Grief, hoping that they don't have the Feed to Swarm, but they did. So ultimately here, they get a 3 for 2. All I lose that's extra is this Lorien revealed. They would have Grief taking Force of Will and then Feed the Swarm my Thought Lash. This Lorien revealed, I don't think that it would have made the difference for me in this game, but that is a loss. I could have just let Grief resolve. Letting Grief resolve there is the same as hoping they don't have Force of Will, or Feed the Swarm. And here the Stalactite Stalker, you can see, grows very fast. I'm at 3. I need to find another Thought Lash right here, right now. I put Thassa's Oracle on the bottom. And we find the Thought Lash. While they are hellbent, and we know Thassa's Oracle is on the bottom of the library, so we go to 1, and it's lucky that we found it. We used an impulse to get there. I don't know. Is it luck? Did we play to our outs? You tell me. But I don't think we did anything wrong. Again, the only thing in this game where I'd say, was it a punt? Did it just not work out? Was using Force of Will on the Feed the Swarm. We could have had a Lorien revealed left over in our hand here, but not sure that ultimately matters at the end of the day. The other reason to force the Grief was to protect Echoing Truth. But they got so aggressive so fast with these, with the Stalactite Stalker and the Opposition Agent, that Echoing Truth wouldn't have been effective at protecting us. And so that is the first round of the top 8, beating Mono Black Scam. Now we go into the top 4. Top 4, game 1. Round 8, let's see, were there any punts? Did we mention any? No, there's just that decision about whether or not to Force of Will the Grief. Force of Willing the Grief protects the Echoing Truth. Not forcing the grief, we keep Lorien Revealed. Worked out in the end. All right, top 4, round 1, game 1. We are on the draw. Not round 1. Round 9, game 1, we're on the draw. So they play this Sir Ginger card, which I've never seen before in my life. See if I can make it big. So Sir Ginger, the Meal Ender, has Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as an opponent controls a Planeswalker. We don't play any Planeswalkers in this build, so I'm not worried about that. But whenever an artifact's put into a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it and scry. This thing grows really fast, and the scry is probably why this user got so far in the tournament. This Sir Ginger was insane, and you're going to see it here. So I kept Cavern plus Lorien Revealed plus combo. The plan is Cycle Lorien Revealed, grab an island, cast Paradigm Shift, hope it resolves, play Thassa's Oracle, and win. They don't play discard spells in 8-cast or Patchwork Stompy, so I'm not worried about any of that. And so there's the cycle, and they refill their hand so fast. 8-cast really, well, this isn't 8-cast, I guess, but all of these 8-bobble Thoughtcast decks, they get such a reload all the time that it's so hard to, you can't just wait till they're out of resources, because they're never out of resources. And you can see this thing is already a 6/4. It starts out as the 3/1. And so they're coming in with a lot of pressure. And I haven't even shown them, I showed them the Paradigm Shift. They thought they needle on Thought Lash. Of course we drew Thought Lash. That was really our only out, but we didn't even have the mana to cast it. So I play a Spellseeker as a blocker, and grab another Paradigm Shift. And my hope here is that I'm going to start looping these Paradigm Shifts just a little bit, but this Ancient Tomb is going to be too much of a tax to do that. So I need to go grab one more island. And there's no difference between being at 6 or being at 4 when your opponent has a 6/4. So we shift with 6 cards in our graveyard that we're going to have to get through, and they are finally hellbent. They had multiple Force of Wills, those baubles, and we have to play out Thassa's Oracle as a blocker. Taking the cards that Thassa's Oracle saw, and we don't put anything on top because none of them are the ways to dig more or the Spellseeker in order to keep blocking. What really sucks here is we had it lined up. I could have cast this Spellseeker. What I had lined up was I put I found Spellseeker off the Oracle. Sorry, not that we didn't put anything. Put Spellseeker on top in order to find another Paradigm Shift, and the other Paradigm Shift, and they're hellbent. So we could Spellseeker for the Paradigm Shift that's in this 5, and then we'd have to use the Ancient Tomb to Paradigm Shift our other Shift and Oracle back into our deck, and then Impulse grab the Thassa's Oracle so that we could win on our next turn. But we'll be at 1 life, which is fine, except that they played Emery as their card for turn. And so we can play our uncounterable blocker, but we can't tap Ancient Tomb because they can attack around us. And so now we have to block with Spellseeker and then shift on our next turn. But I'm still like trying to play it out here. but the math doesn't work. Like, we're not going to have enough turns to to block here, shift, impulse, and then, like, we don't have a blocker. We won't have any mana. And so from here, I just kind of play to see more of their deck because we don't have any outs. Our out would be that that they skipped through combat on accident, which obviously didn't happen. And then I think I concede right here. Yeah, Lorien Reveal just to double check what's in my deck, just to draw those cards, and yeah. Top 4, game 2. So, won the die roll, kept 7, have shift, have step through, have Cavernous Souls. One thing that's really nice is if you can avoid showing Cavernous Souls, a lot of people will let Paradigm Shift resolve because they think they can beat the Thassa's Oracle. And so that's what I'm going to play to here. That's why I'm going to play the Fiery Islet out, even though it deals damage against the aggro deck. I'm going to avoid showing Cavernous Souls for as long as possible. This Patchwork Automaton's getting to work. Thinking about punts, in game 1, I can't think. The only thing I can think of is maybe we could have been more patient, but we were under a lot of pressure. So I don't think that I could have waited for the very first Paradigm Shift attempt. So we step through for Thassa's Oracle, and here we're just going to cast Paradigm Shift. Again, we're not showing Cavernous Souls, and we're under so much pressure that we don't have time to wait another turn because we can only get hit one more time before we're dead. There's the Sir Ginger, all these scries, and we go to 2 off of that Patchwork, and we play the Cavernous Souls, and they don't even let us cast it. They know. So we go to game 3, and yeah, this is turn 4. We're at 2. They have a 9/9 and a 4/2. This build of Patchwork is very aggressive. I was really impressed with this build. All right. So they're on the play. Okay. So I keep this hand on Null Rod. Right. I've got good mana. I've got Null Rod. I've got Thassa's Oracle. They open on Urza's Saga, which I did bring in Magus of the Moon to beat specifically Urza's Saga. And if we draw exactly Magus of the Moon right here, I think we win this game. That's not what happens. We draw more mana and we're just flooded. On turn 1 and 2, we drew mana in a hand where I kept 5 mana sources. So probably, if we call anything a punt, right off the bat, it's the mulligan decision to keep based off of Null Rod. Here again, they play Thought Lash. They play Needle on Thought Lash. That's our out. We have Step Through for Spellseeker, for Paradigm Shift, Oracle, but we just don't have time. I even have Spellseeker for Echoing Truth instead to try and just live. And that's what we do. We go Spellseeker for Echoing Truth, but they have the interaction, and we lose. So again, was it a punt to keep that hand? Maybe. I had half the combo, and I had a very potent hate piece in the match. Hard to say. I think there's a lot of times where that hand works out. and this wasn't one of them. So, I don't know. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me.